Welcome to another edition of the Labor Vision Podcast. I'm your host, James Dennis. America Workers First and Labor Vision presents the 2020 Vision for Labor. The goal is to energize, educate, and engage you. And of course, somebody just dialed in on my iPad.
Of course.
I love this. Hey, new podcast and YouTube video every Friday. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm with my co-host, Charles Daniels. What's happening, my brother?
I'm happy to be here. Happy for another episode here of Labor Vision. We have an excellent guest today. I'm really excited to talk to her.
All right. Who do we have today, my brother?
We have Sarah Anthony, who is a state representative out of the 68th District up in Lansing. Hey, Sarah.
Hello. How are you both?
Yes.
We're doing much better now that we're talking to you. Thank you.
That's right. Good job. All right. Let's get started.
Yes, please. Sarah, could you maybe introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. So, again, my name is Sarah. I am a state rep here in Lansing, and it's my hometown. It's where I was born and raised. I come from a union household, so both of my parents are UAW folks. My mom's a retiree, so she's a local 6,000, and my dad still works for the UAW as a benefits rep. And, they really just, raised me and instilled, the values of hard work and really just a commitment to service. So after I graduated from high school, and, I'm the first one in my family to go off to college. After graduating from college, I just said, I want to come back to my community to serve. So I worked on a couple of campaigns and did some grassroots organizing, and it just really led me to a life of service. So I spent about 6 years on the Ingham County Commission and, helped to work really closely with working families and with our labor unions just to provide more opportunities for Lansing folks. And in 2018, I began my first term as a state representative. So I'm still a freshman. Some would say I'm a super freshman.
You're a super freshman for sure.
Yeah. But everything I've been doing, I think I've just been really laser focused on people, right? I think that at the end of the day, I want my legacy to be about helping people, specifically like middle and lower income families. I think that's the backbone of who we are as Michiganders. And that's really what I want to spend the rest of my life on is helping people.
And you really are the quintessential Michigan success story. Both of your parents were UAW labor union members that raised you in that environment, were here so that they could have those opportunities for those good jobs, and you were able to excel because of it. I mean, you're what all people coming to Michigan hope to be able to achieve, just a good life for their family so that moving forward they can contribute.
Yeah. I mean, what I tell you, last year, it really hit home for me around the summer. In Lansing, we were looking at a possible government shutdown, and I had to look literally hundreds of state employees in the eye and try to instill some type of certainty. And I kept seeing my mom in those folks. She's a retiree from the state of Michigan. And then every morning when I would drive into work, I would see UAW workers on strike. And I thought about my dad. And if I thought about when I was growing up, that literally that would have been my family,
Right.
Really uncertain about where our paycheck would come from, where our next meal might come from because of so much uncertainty. And so, I love being from Lansing. I love being from Michigan. And I always say, when people compliment, me being healthy or having great teeth, I always say those are all sponsored by collectively bargained benefits from, my mom and dad's labor union. So I would not be where I am today without it.
And what's interesting to me is you're just talking about essentially one generation back where there were those jobs that there was a level of security that if you came to work and worked hard, you could make a career, you could build a life around those jobs. And just in this past generation with Michigan becoming a right to work state, all of these jobs leaving the state, it's really changed the entire atmosphere and the culture of the state. And that's really disappointing because people come to Michigan for those opportunities, and the population of Michigan, while it's growing, it's not keeping pace with other states. And I think you can tie it directly back to the loss of those good jobs to that opportunity.
I 100% agree. I mean, that's what brought my family here. My dad came from poverty in East St. Louis. My mom came from St. Louis, and they both came to Michigan for one purpose, and that was for good paying jobs. And, I fear that, my generation and the next generation will not be able to, see that same dream, right? Even if you do have a job, what are the wages going to look like? Will we have jobs that have ensuring a living wage or ensuring the benefits that, again, my parents were able to help us reach the middle class? So that really keeps me up at night, but it also gives me a little bit of fuel to keep fighting every day at the Capitol.
Union folks are tough.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're working on a House Resolution Bill 0075, and it reads a resolution to urge state and federal administrators to increase the number of women in skilled trade professionals and to encourage industry leaders and labor unions to address existing and future shortages in the skilled trade workforce. Can you explain what's going on with this? It sounds beautiful. It really does. Can you give us some more?
Yeah. So this resolution was actually spearheaded by State Representative Leslie Love out of Detroit.
I know Leslie Love. Yeah, she's cool. I've had her on this radio show before. Yes, she is. She's great. Shouts out to her.
Yes, she's awesome. And, this bill essentially is, designed to encourage, more women in skilled trades. I read one statistic that by the year 2028, an estimated 3 million jobs will be open in the skilled trades area. And those are positions that are good paying. And I just want to make sure that we're closing the gender gap even in the trade. Last year, or actually maybe in 2018, fewer than 1 in 20 construction trade workers were women. And so we know that a lot of times women are the primary bread earners, the earners and the breadwinners in our households across the state. And so we just want to make sure that women are right at the table, that they are competing with their male counterparts, even in the skilled trades industry, because we know women can compete. And with them having to be the ones that provide for their families, we just want to make sure that all those opportunities are afforded to women as well as our male counterparts.
Well, you know what? It is definitely a shortage in women workers and in the leadership of some of the trades unions. I mean, you don't have that many women as serving as foremen on jobs, when they're and also inside business agents. So, you got very few women that's doing those jobs as well. And those jobs aren't as difficult as being out on the trades, but we do still want them to be part of the trade shop because they can be electricians, they can be bricklayers, they can be carpenters, they can do all this stuff that men can do.
Anything.
And Brenda Lawrence has been working on this as well. I don't know if you're familiar. She had I think she had a bill on the table. I'm not 100% sure, but her and Brenda Jones, both of them have been kind of pushing for women to be able to have the same opportunities as men when it comes to the skilled trade stuff. These are great jobs with great benefits.
Yes.
And they should have access to it.
And historically, union positions, that's where you've been able to close the gender inequality. If you look at unions in the past, there's so many women and men that are in the same unions, and maybe they weren't always doing the same jobs, but they were part of the same organization. They were part of the same union. And because of that, they were able to lift each other up together, which is the beautiful part about unions, is regardless of race, creed, gender, age, anything, you were all covered equally under that CBA, under that collective bargaining agreement. And because of that, you had the same opportunities to advance. And that's the beauty of a union.
And also with CWA, with our local, the operators was a really, really big part of getting CWA where it is today. So women has played a really huge part. So this is definitely needed,
Yeah, I love it. I just love it. And again, it's important for women to be at the table, and as you mentioned, in all levels, right?
Yes,
so from the leadership right on down. And
yes.
I just think that women can compete, and so we just need to make sure that we're not only providing opportunity, but also incentivizing. And I think that comes also through apprenticeship programs, right? So encouraging young women, even before they graduate from high school, to explore careers in construction, in welding, and all these other places, because I just do think that, women can compete, and these are good paying jobs, as you mentioned, with benefits that they will be able to provide for families. So I'm really excited about this resolution, and I just look forward to working on other policies that actually, again, continue to encourage this.
So where's this one at right now? What's the hang up? Who's looking at this and going, no, this is a bad idea?
Oh,
So
boy.
this is just a House resolution, right? So this is a resolution that essentially encourages this. It was referred to the Commerce and Tourism Committee. And so, I'd have to check with Representative Love to see what, if any, movement has happened in order for this to continue to move through the legislative process. But in April of last year, it was referred to the Commerce and Tourism Committee. So stay tuned. I'm not sure how much movement there will be on this one, but it is a great bill. It's a great idea. And I'll do whatever I can to make sure that it keeps moving through the legislative process.
So also you were working on something with the census?
Yes, I saw your video the other day with Representative, goodness, was it Isaac? Goodness, I can't get the name right now, but you were talking about,
Robinson.
yes, and you were just talking about how important the census is coming up. And
It is.
Historically, communities of color have not been counted as well as they should have been. And there's a lot of money that's allocated to these states based on the census. So if you're not being counted, well, then you don't count. You had a great line in there where you said that everyone needs to be counted because everyone counts.
Right.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think back to times in history in which people like me literally were not counted, or were not counted as full human beings, right? And so now we have an opportunity in this time period, in this community, in this state, to actually be counted, because it means so much. It means federal programming for our state. It means federal funding. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, and a large chunk of Michigan's money does come from the federal government. And so I want to make sure that we get every single nickel that we need in order to provide for students and families, for elderly folks, art programs, police and fire. All of those things are essential to our ability to provide for families. And so I have just been encouraging everyone to fill out the census. It's not a lot of questions. It's not a lot to do. But, I come from a community that when we see the government knocking at your door, you run. You go hide. And I get that. I get that some of us have just grown up with a distrust for government. And even now, with everything happening at the federal level, I think that there is a distrust, particularly in low-income communities, Black and brown communities, about how information is being used. But if there's anything I can be doing to provide good information to our communities, that's just a part of my job as a community leader. So the census is just super important, and the work that we need done in our communities relies on much of the federal support. So I'm encouraging everyone to go get out and make sure to fill out the census.
Well, you know what? The city of Detroit has already started passing out cards. And I got a phone call, and she said, hey, can we put it in at the church here? And so I was like, hey, no problem. Let's do it. So it's out there. We've been talking about it. We've been getting everybody to get involved. Because keep in mind, we need to also count the homeless people as well. People that everybody needs to be counted. But a lot of times the homeless people don't get counted. And that knocks off the whole scale of it, undercounts Michigan, basically.
Absolutely. People are being left behind. And this isn't a Democrat thing, a Republican thing, an independent thing, a Green Party thing. It doesn't matter what you identify with.
People thing.
This is a people thing. Exactly. And ultimately it's getting what you deserve thing from your government. These are the people that are there to help us. So if you're not being counted, well, you're getting left behind. And
like I said, the homeless people are the hardest group to count, because to you guys' point, they're fearful. You're approaching them about something. They're just like, whoa, what are you trying to do? And then here's the other part of it. A lot of our homeless people have mental disabilities, which is the reason why they're homeless, which goes back to Engler when he threw them out on the street. And they have been on the street ever since then. And I have never forgotten that, just so you know.
I mean, it goes back to Reagan doing away with so much that was
absolutely, my brother,
to
absolutely.
help people with mental health issues, and we're really reaping the whirlwind on that now. It's not an immediate impact, but you can see it as it's aggregately building up. It's a problem.
Yep, but it saved money at the time.
That's right.
That's the problem. It was a temporary situation.
That's right. That's right. And ultimately, I mean, again, the services you mentioned to the homeless, right?
Mm-hmm.
These services that we need to provide for homeless folks, whether it's mental health care, physical care, housing assistance, food assistance, a lot of those fundings come from the federal government. But if we don't know how many individuals need those services, we aren't able to provide in the way that they expect and deserve. And so, we have some work to do, but I think Michigan is up to the task. And not every state has actually allocated funding to the census, but under the leadership of our governor, Governor Whitmer, she has, said we are going to prioritize the census here in Michigan. So I'm pleased with her leadership, and I'm here in lockstep, doing what I can throughout the state.
And I've heard that Michigan has always been undercounted, and not just in the urban areas, but in the rural areas as well, because they'll get the census and kind of just toss it, just don't even think about it. Yeah. So everybody, please fill out the census. Michigan, come on, y'all. We're really everywhere, because everybody hears this podcast everywhere. So everywhere, fill out your census, be counted.
Yeah,
get that
mostly in Michigan though.
Yeah, man.
Just kidding. Sarah, one of the things that Jimmy and I talk about, because you're working on another piece of legislation, and there's actually, I think, multiple pieces to this, but we always talk about there are two kinds of people. You have workers, so you have the retirees, and you have those that want to be retirees. You're doing a lot with the elderly in Michigan, trying to help out with elderly abuse. Could you talk about those pieces of legislation?
Yeah, this is something that is really near and dear to my heart, and it's actually one of the first bills that I spearheaded. Last year, I pulled together 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats, because in our current legislature, that's how you get things done, is actually working across the aisle. So I partnered with 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats to put together a 8-bill package to strengthen protections for Michigan's senior population, and really just to address the prevalence of elder abuse. There's been several studies that have indicated that 73,000 elderly Michiganders have been the victim of abuse or neglect every single year. And so I specifically put this bill package together, and I'm really happy to say that it passed the House in February. And so
good job.
So I'm very, very excited about it. I mean, since introducing the package, I've been working alongside my colleagues to just make Michigan a more age-friendly state, right?
Great.
And there's something really special about looking out for senior citizens. These are our grandparents. These are the folks who have, shaped us and molded us and really guided a path for us, either personally or professionally. And so it's up to us, who are either in positions of power or who are just good-hearted people, to make sure that we're strengthening protections for folks. So specifically, this package addresses both financial and physical abuse of senior citizens. And it puts in some actual sentencing guidelines for embezzlement and for physical abuse, because at the end of the day, our population is aging. And so we need to make sure that our state current laws are protecting senior citizens. So I'm just really excited about it. And I'm going to now start working with folks in the Senate on the Judiciary Committee in order to, continue to move this legislation forward so it becomes a law in Michigan.
You know what? And it's funny because I can remember my grandfather lost his leg working at Chrysler. And so he went years, with just one leg. And then he ended up the other leg, they had to amputate that one. So he got put in this rehab center, and it was funny because he had a partner or somebody in the bed next to him. So he's in there. I was a kid. We would go visit him, and what they would do is the families of the people that they had their loved ones in there would always request that he put in their room with their loved one, because if let's just say they couldn't go to the bathroom on their own. Well, my grandfather was really like raw dog. Real like ding 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 ding, hey, this guy went on with the bathroom, he's stinking, you need to get him cleaned up. And it was just funny because he was like the watchdog, and people would, if their loved one got moved out of his room somewhere else, the families would come up there and have a stroke. Nope, put him back in that room, because I know you're going to take care of my loved one, because he's not going to sit in that next bed and have you abuse my loved one. But it's just, I'm saying that to say this, it's just funny that you almost have to either go up to them centers yourself every single solitary day. You have to almost have somebody in the bed next to him that can look out for him. You got to almost pay somebody, hey, take care of my loved one. It shouldn't be like that. The abuse, the cleaning them, and I mean, I've seen some horrific things in some of these homes, and it has just been just tear-jerking bad. So we need legislation like this because these people are all about the money, but they don't want to treat the employees right, so that way the employees treat the patients right.
Yes, and there have to be ramifications put in place. So I applaud you for this legislation because the thought that our loved ones that raised us, that took care of us, are living in fear, are being intimidated by people, are being taken advantage of. It's unconscionable, and we're better than that. So as a group,
we're supposed to be better than that.
Well, we are better than that, and I refuse to think otherwise. It's just a matter of out of sight, out of mind, and we need these pieces of legislation to put it in the forefront, to bring the spotlight to it, that if you're mistreating those people, that there will be ramifications, there will be repercussions. It will not continue to happen.
Right. Might be a special place somewhere for you.
That's right. And I will also say, and I want to flag this too, that oftentimes, and this is very unfortunate, but the individuals who are, physically or even more prevalently financially abusing senior citizens are individuals in their own home, in their own family.
Oh, so yeah. Come on.
Where folks are taking money and, being receptive. And so this would protect across the board. So whether we're talking about different homes and different facilities or individuals right in your own family, this is designed to address both because unfortunately, that can be the case. And so I'm encouraged by the leadership in the House. And I really look forward to the Senate taking aggressive action on this as well. So it's so important.
So we are at the end of this podcast because we just run. We could talk all day. But look, I got a question for you. What is your 2020 vision for labor?
Oh, wow. I think I want to ensure that labor has a seat at every single table. The halls of power, be it at the Capitol, be it in community centers, be it in church basements, are made better when organized labor, men and women who are committed to working families are at the table. And so I want to create as many environments in which labor has a robust seat at the table. And I want to make sure that both Republicans and Democrats take that voice seriously and ensure that working families are represented. Because, again, it is the DNA of our state to have organized labor at every single seat. And so we are made stronger, we are made better when organized labor is involved in all of our decisions. And so that is my vision, is to make sure that organized labor is around.
Hear, hear.
Well, I tell you what, thank you. It has been a great podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah.
Hey, thanks again.
Thank you.
All righty. And look, this podcast will drop on Friday. Yep. This Friday coming up, so please stay tuned. Share, subscribe, like, share, listen, all that good stuff. Until next time, peace out to everybody.